Chapter 94. This was actually a body tempering technique. Presumably, Jing Qian was cultivating this raging flame Vajra art. Body tempering techniques were extremely rare in the divine wilderness continent. Furthermore, body tempering techniques were known for being difficult to cultivate and slow to cultivate. By cultivating body tempering techniques, one's physical body would constantly become stronger and possess all sorts of incredible abilities. According to the strength of the physical body, it was divided into 9 grades. Grade 1 was the weakest and grade 9 was the strongest. Each grade was further divided into 3 levels: small success, large success, and perfection. However, the body tempering path was not a single path. It was a type of martial arts that was auxiliary to martial arts. Just like the inscription path, it was auxiliary to martial arts. This was because if the physical body was not combined with martial arts, it would not be able to unleash its full power. Take a grade 1 physical body for example. It did not correspond to the martial soldier realm. This was because without true energy and various martial skills, the physical body alone was just strength. A grade 1 physical body was not a match for a martial soldier realm warrior. Even a grade 2 physical body was not a match for a martial soldier realm warrior. However, this did not mean that the physical body was weak and cultivation was useless. Body tempering was auxiliary to martial arts. Once a strong physical body combined with true energy and various martial skills, it would erupt with unimaginable power. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Instead, it would increase exponentially. For example, the stronger the physical body, the more true energy one could unleash without fear of injuring one's body. Some powerful martial skills and even secret techniques were very harmful to the physical body. Without a strong physical body, one would not be able to withstand it. Furthermore, the stronger the physical body, the more incredible abilities one would have. The stronger the physical body, the stronger one's vitality and recovery ability. Even if one was injured, one could recover quickly. It was said that when the physical body was strong to a certain extent, one could control all the muscles and bones in one's body. Even if one was injured, one could instantly seal the wound. One could also control the muscles and bones, change one's body shape and appearance. It was extremely magical. If one was stronger, they could even regenerate broken limbs or even regenerate from a drop of blood. Of course, these were all legends. Therefore, the body tempering path was auxiliary to martial arts. When combined with martial arts, one could erupt with great power. Jing Qian was a good example. He didn't cultivate any profound grade martial skills, it was just that his physical body was much stronger than Lu Ming's. By relying on a yellow grade high-grade martial skill, he was able to erupt with strength that was on par with Lu Ming. This was especially true for some close combat martial artists who cultivated palms, fists, and claws. If they combined these skills with a strong physical body, their strength would increase even more. Lu Ming hurriedly opened the Raging Flame Vajra art and read it. After watching it, Lu Ming fell into deep thought. The Raging Flame Vajra secret art can at most allow a person to cultivate a 3rd-grade physical body. It seems that Jing Qian has only cultivated to the 1st-grade great perfection, not the 2nd grade. That's enough. If I can cultivate a tier 3 fleshly body, my strength will increase by at least several times. Lu Ming's eyes gradually lit up. This was not just a saying. When a martial artist cultivated, as their cultivation increased, their true qi would also slowly temper their physical body, causing their physical body to slowly become stronger. However, that process was too slow. It was said that once one reached the martial arts grandmaster realm, one's physical body would naturally be upgraded to rank 1. However, that simply could not meet the needs of a martial artist. The stronger one's cultivation was, the stronger and more condensed their true qi would be, and the greater the pressure on one's meridians and physical body would be. Therefore, when a martial artist fought, they would subconsciously reserve a portion of their true qi to protect their meridians and physical body. Usually, it was said that one could unleash 100% of one's strength. However, in a real sense, one would not be able to unleash 100% of one's strength. However, only after one's physical body became stronger would one be able to unleash 100% of one's true qi without any worries. This was especially true for Lu Ming. His true qi was too strong and condensed. Therefore, he subconsciously left more true qi to protect his meridians and physical body. Therefore, the Raging Flame Vajra art was more important to Lu Ming than a profound grade martial technique. After carefully studying the cultivation method of the Raging Flame Vajra art, Lu Ming put it down and looked at the fifth and final book. This book was not a cultivation method or a martial technique. It was a notebook. He had found it in Jingqian's storage ring. After opening it, Lu Ming skipped over the first few pages that were not important to him. After flipping through a dozen pages, he found a few pages that had been marked. Only then did he see the ones that interested Lu Ming. These were the records of the extinct volcano from before. It turns out that the extinct volcano contains the spiritual fire milk. It is extremely useful for cultivating the Raging Flame Vajra art. It turns out that the treasure that Jingqian was looking for was the spiritual fire milk. After reading it, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Originally, the progress of body tempering cultivation method was extremely slow. Lu Ming did not want to cultivate the Raging Flame Vajra art to a high level in a short period of time. However, if he had the spiritual fire milk, it would be different. The Raging Flame Vajra art might be able to reach a certain level in a short period of time. It did not need much. As long as he could cultivate to a first-grade physical body, it would be of great help to Lu Ming's combat strength. Let's go. Since I know about it, I can't miss it. After tidying up his things, Lu Ming left the Temple of Paragon and headed to the central region. He returned to the extinct volcano. Roar! Roar! The demonic beasts roared. 5 or 6 demonic beasts ran away with the corpses of the 10-direction sword sect disciples in their mouths. The smell of blood must have attracted the demonic beasts over. Lu Ming ignored them and went to the path that the 10-direction sword sect disciples had asked the stone pickers to explore. There were marks made with white powder, and the outline of the path was clearly visible. Lu Ming pondered for a moment before he walked forward. He did not walk very quickly. He circulated his true qi and observed the ground with all his might. The terrain in this area was constantly changing. It was fine before, but it did not mean that it would be fine now. Fortunately, there were no accidents along the way. Lu Ming successfully made it through this section of the road. After walking through this path, he arrived at the foot of the extinct volcano. Here, thick black rocks were piled up. They were very stable, and there was no need to worry about lava spewing out. Lu Ming climbed up. The extinct volcano was not tall, only a few hundred meters. Soon, Lu Ming reached the peak. There was a huge hole in the middle of the peak. It was a few hundred meters deep, and there were pitch-black crystals at the bottom. According to the ancient records of the Zheng family, the fire spirit milk was at the bottom of the volcano. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming slowly climbed down along the surrounding walls. Soon, he reached the bottom of the extinct volcano. The black crystals below were extremely hard, and there was a deep hole in the wall of the extinct volcano. In the hole, Lu Ming immediately saw a stalk of spiritual grass. This stalk of spiritual grass was fiery red and gave off a sparkling glow. Flame crystal grass. Seeing this stalk of spiritual grass, Lu Ming was overjoyed. This was one of the materials needed to cultivate the third level of the true battle dragon art. Lu Ming had come to the Lingnan Fire region to see if he could find the flame crystal grass. Chapter 95. Not only that, Lu Ming walked closer to take a look. There was a pool of liquid at the root of the flame crystal grass. It wasn't much, but it was fiery red. It looked like it was formed by melting fire jade. Fire spirit milk, this is the fire spirit milk. Lu Ming was overjoyed. There was indeed fire spirit milk here. No wonder the flame crystal grass could grow here. Fire spirit milk was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. It could only be formed in places with extremely rich fire attribute spiritual energy. It contained rich fire attribute essence. Lu Ming stepped forward and moved his hand. A jade box and a jade bottle appeared. The jade box was made of ordinary white jade. Lu Ming had prepared it himself to store the spirit grass. The jade bottle was found in Jing Qian's storage ring. It was made of fire jade and was suitable for storing the fire spirit milk. He took out a sword and carefully dug out the flame crystal grass and put it into the jade box. Then, he circulated his true qi and sucked the fire spirit milk into the jade bottle. It's quite a lot, at least 2 jin. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He thought that 1 jin would be a great opportunity. He didn't expect it to be 2 jin. If I refine all this fire spirit milk, how strong will my physical body be? I can at least cultivate to grade 1 upper realm, right? Lu Ming thought to himself. He kept the things and walked up the stone wall without stopping. Along the way, he didn't encounter any threats. Soon, Lu Ming walked out of the central region and returned to the outer region. After returning to the outer region, Lu Ming went straight into the Temple of Paragon. Sitting cross-legged, Lu Ming took out the Raging Flame Vajra art and read it carefully. Then, he took out the jade bottle containing the fire spirit milk. Now, I'll use the fire spirit milk to cultivate the Raging Flame Vajra art. Lu Ming opened the bottle cap and thought for a moment. Then, he took a small sip. Boom! After swallowing a small mouthful of the fire spirit milk, it was like a volcanic eruption. It emitted a hot aura and violent energy that filled Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body was like a fireball. Nest, the energy of this fire spirit milk is too terrifying. It's beyond my imagination. It's so hot and painful. The fire spirit elixir's energy was incomparably hot, burning Lu Ming's muscles and bones. This situation was like putting Lu Ming directly into a roasting fire. One could imagine how painful it would be. I must endure it. The reason why it hurts so much is because my body is too weak. I have never cultivated the Tao of body refinement before. I have only used my Jin Qi to slowly refine my body. After the first time, my body will improve, and the next time, it won't hurt so much. Lu Ming's mind raced. He gritted his teeth and activated the Raging Flame Vajra method, starting to absorb and refine the scorching energy. Sizzle, it was as if his fleshly body was a piece of iron that was being burned and forged in a raging flame. Lu Ming could even hear the sizzling sound of his fleshly body being burned. This process lasted for a full 2 hours before the energy of the elixir of fire was completely refined. At this moment, the pain completely disappeared, and an extremely comfortable feeling spread throughout his body. My physical strength has indeed improved a lot. Lu Ming carefully felt the changes in his body. He found that although his body had not become much stronger, his muscles had become much firmer, and his entire body was filled with strength. The qi and blood in his veins were surging, full of vitality, and his body functions were stronger than before. The Raging Flame Vajra method and the Fire Spirit Elixir are a perfect match. I have only refined a small mouthful, and there is such an improvement. Although I have not reached the level of a first-grade body, I believe that I will reach it soon. Now, continue. Then, Lu Ming swallowed a small mouthful of Fire Spirit Elixir and continued to cultivate the Raging Flame Vajra method. Just like before, when the Fire Spirit Elixir entered his body, it erupted with an intense fire attribute essence that was incomparably hot. I wonder if the Devouring Spirit bloodline is useful for the Fire Spirit Elixir. Lu Ming's heart suddenly moved. Before his bloodline was completely reborn, he could quickly refine the power of the pill. Then, could he quickly refine the power of the Fire Spirit Elixir now? He would know after trying. Immediately, Lu Ming controlled his bloodline, and a powerful devouring force was produced from his spine. Suddenly, all the energy of the Fire Spirit Elixir in his body was absorbed by his bloodline. Not long after, a gentle and pure energy flowed into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming circulated the Raging Flame Vajra method and absorbed all the energy into his body, using it to increase the strength of his body. It was different from devouring blood essence. The bloodline itself would cut off half of the energy to strengthen the bloodline itself, and only half of the essence would enter Lu Ming's body. The fire spirit elixir was different. All the energy would enter Lu Ming's body. Under the circulation of the raging flame Vajra method, Lu Ming's body strength was rapidly increasing. In just 10 minutes, the small mouthful of fire spirit elixir had been completely refined, and he felt that his body had become stronger. Moreover, he did not feel the slightest pain. If I had known earlier, I would have controlled my bloodline from the first mouthful. I wouldn't have had to suffer so much. Lu Ming regretted it. After resting for a while, he continued to refine the fire spirit elixir. A day later, the fire spirit elixir had been refined. Lu Ming's body had broken through and reached the first-grade physical body, which was at the small success stage. Boom! Lu Ming circulated the true dragon fighting art. Dragon-shaped genuine qi was like a river, surging unscrupulously in Lu Ming's meridians. Boom! Genuine qi was attached to his fist, and he punched out. His fist passed through the air, forming a sonic boom, and a transparent air wave rushed out far away. Strong, my physical fitness is more than 10 times stronger than before. Whether it is my muscles, bones, tendons, or internal organs, they have all improved by many times. Last time, when he was besieged by Yao Tianyu and his men, he was seriously injured and took 7 to 8 days to recover. But now, Lu Ming believed that he would be fully recovered in 3 days. This was the benefit of a strong physical body. Moreover, the combination of Lu Ming's physical body and cultivation had increased his combat strength. Of course, if Lu Ming did not use his true qi or martial arts techniques, he could easily defeat a martial artist at the 3rd level of martial warrior with his physical body. The Tao of the physical body was not used for fighting, but to support the martial path. I can't just focus on refining the fire spirit elixir to improve my physical body. Otherwise, I won't be able to adapt quickly. I should go out and practice my spear art to improve my physical body and martial path. When my physical body, genuine qi, and martial techniques are perfectly integrated, I will continue to cultivate my physical body. Lu Ming immediately left the Temple of Paragon and returned to the central region to practice the astral flame spear art. Just like that, Lu Ming practiced his spear art for a few days and refined some fire spirit elixir. As time passed, Lu Ming's spear art and physical body improved rapidly. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. On the 23rd day, Lu Ming refined the 2 kilograms of fire spirit elixir, and Lu Ming's physical body improved like a rocket. He skipped greater grade 1, greater grade 1, greater grade 1, and reached lesser grade 2. Chapter 96. Compared to the substantial improvement of his physical body, the improvement of the astral fire spear art was slower. He was still a step away from reaching the 3rd level. After all, it was a black-level martial skill. The difficulty of cultivating it was many times higher than a yellow-level martial skill. As for Lu Ming's cultivation, it did not increase by much. These days, he did not deliberately kill demonic beasts and devour their blood essence. Therefore, his cultivation had only reached the peak of the early 8th level of the martial master realm. He was still a step away from the middle 8th level of the martial master realm. Lu Ming practiced his spear in the middle of the Lingnan fire domain. He waved his spear like a dragon dancing in the air, bringing about bursts of explosive sounds. Within a radius of 10 meters, it was as if a hurricane was blowing. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Lu Ming felt that he was very close to the 3rd level, but he was still a little bit away. It was like a layer of paper that could not be broken. Lu Ming's mind sank into the astral fire spear art, searching for the aura of a breakthrough with all his might. Rumble. Right at this moment, a muffled rumble sounded. Lu Ming was shocked and stopped cultivating. Rumble. The rumbling continued, even more intense than before. Moreover, even the ground began to tremble slightly. Roar! Roar! The roars of the demonic beasts could be heard. Afterward, Lu Ming saw many demonic beasts running away desperately, as if they had encountered something terrifying. Rumble. The trembling became louder and the ground began to shake violently. Not good, could it be a volcanic eruption? Let's go. Lu Ming's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Then, he turned around and ran outside in shock. Along the way, he saw at least a few hundred demonic beasts running from the depths to the periphery. 10 minutes later, Lu Ming ran to the periphery and stopped to look at the inner area. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering rumble sounded and the ground shook violently. Then, Lu Ming saw an unforgettable scene. A fiery red pillar of fire rushed out from a mountain peak like a fire dragon, as if it was about to soar into the sky. The pillar of fire rushed into the sky and then dispersed like extremely gorgeous fireworks. Thick smoke billowed and pillars of fire soared into the sky, illuminating the horizon red. Is this the power of a volcanic eruption? It was simply too powerful. When they gathered together and exploded, their power could break through the heavens and earth. This kind of power was simply too shocking. Was this the power of nature? Can human strength contend against it? Lu Ming stared blankly at the volcanic eruption in the distance. Fire? Gather? Erupt? Might? Lu Ming seemed to be in a trance. His eyes stared straight at the volcano in front of him as he muttered to himself. Following that, he involuntarily took a step forward and headed toward the central region. Boom! Boom! The volcano seemed to have accumulated too much energy, causing it to erupt continuously. Fiery red magma continued to erupt. The more Lu Ming walked towards the central region, the clearer he could see it. The might also became clearer. When Lu Ming reached the central region, he involuntarily brandished his long spear and practiced the astral fire spear technique. Flames, magma eruption. Explode? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He remembered the sixth move of the astral fire spear technique. The sixth move was called Explode. This move was extremely powerful, but he had never succeeded in practicing it. At this moment, he suddenly understood. Swish! The long spear suddenly pierced the ground. At the same time, the true qi in his body madly gathered at the tip of the spear. When the long spear pierced the ground, all the true qi suddenly erupted. Boom! The ground directly exploded, creating a large pit that was more than 2 meters in length and width and 1 meter in depth. What a strong power! Is this the explode? Moreover, the astral fire spear technique has finally reached the 3rd level. Lu Ming's face revealed a happy smile. Just now, not only did he successfully use the explode, but the astral fire spear technique had also reached the 3rd level. It's just that the consumption of true qi for this move is too terrifying. Lu Ming smiled helplessly. Just now, he had used up a third of his true qi when he had used the explosion move. It seemed that this move could not be used often and could only be used as a trump card. Then, Lu Ming began to practice the astral fire spear technique again, but in less than 2 minutes, he stopped. No, it doesn't feel right. Compared to the volcano, I only comprehended the form, but not the soul, not the power. Lu Ming frowned and thought. Rumble. The volcano was still erupting, and there was a terrifying power. Just looking at it, there was a kind of fear. Yes, this power, I don't have this kind of power. Lu Ming's mind kept thinking, his eyes staring at the erupting volcano in the distance, as if he was stunned. After an unknown period of time, the eruption stopped, but he still stood there thinking. In his mind, there seemed to be a volcano that was constantly erupting. Unconsciously, the long spear in Lu Ming's hand began to dance, following the moves of the astral fire spear technique. The spear whistled, the long spear broke through the air. Lu Ming tirelessly practiced. Suddenly, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, the power of the volcano, the power of fire, is power. Boom! Lu Ming suddenly thrust out his spear. This spear was just an ordinary spear, not any move of the astral fire spear technique, but there was a mysterious power contained in it. Boom! This move stabbed the ground, and the ground suddenly exploded. Gravel splashed, and a big pit appeared. This big pit was no smaller than the one made by the explosion move. Power! This is power, the power of fire. Lu Ming's eyes were bright, and the joy in his heart was uncontrollable. This time, watching the eruption of the volcano, his harvest was too great. Not only did he have a breakthrough in the astral fire spear technique, but now he actually comprehended power. Everything in the world had power. Mountains had the power of mountains, majestic and magnificent. Water had the power of water, could stormy waves, and could also nurture vitality. Wind also had the power of wind, unstoppable and formless. Fire, of course, also had the power of fire, scorching and violent, destroying the world. Everything in the world had power. If a martial artist could comprehend and use it, they could erupt with incredible power. Just now, Lu Ming just casually thrust out his spear, and the power was actually comparable to the explosion move. Then, what if he added force when he used the explosion technique? How powerful would it be? Lu Ming was incomparably excited. He never thought that he could actually comprehend power, the power of fire. Not everyone could comprehend power. Only a small number of extremely talented geniuses could comprehend power. The number was shockingly small. Chapter 97. After that, Lu Ming continued to cultivate. 3 days later, Lu Ming stopped. I've completely grasped the power of fire, but my mastery is still very low. I've just started and need to constantly cultivate and comprehend it. Now, it's time to go back. I've already been in the Lingnan fire domain for more than 40 days. There's less than a month left before the 4-month deadline. I can't go back on my word. This time, I'll definitely get on it. Yao Tianyu, just you wait. Out of habit, Lu Ming searched around and caught a demonic beast. Riding on it, he quickly headed back to the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. 5 days later, Lu Ming returned to the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're back. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he bumped into Pang Shi and Hua Qi walking out together. When Pang Shi saw Lu Ming, he revealed a happy smile. Big Stone, where are you going? Lu Ming asked curiously. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're back at the right time. There's going to be a show to watch. Feng Xinglia of the Xuanwu Academy is going to fight his 10th battle on the bronze platform today. If he wins this battle, there will be one more person on the bronze list. Pang Shi said excitedly. Feng Xinglia. Who's Feng Xinglia? Lu Ming was puzzled. No way. Lu Ming, you don't even know Feng Xinglia. Hua Qi looked at Lu Ming with disdain. Lu Ming smiled bitterly as he rubbed his nose and nodded. All right, I've lost to you. Hua Qi curled his lips speechlessly and said, Feng Xinglia is the newcomer king from a year ago. You haven't heard of him? The newcomer king from a year ago? Lu Ming's interest was immediately piqued. That's right, it's the newcomer king from a year ago. Therefore, this battle is very meaningful. It's the first batch of disciples from last year and this year's batch. The others haven't matured yet, so it attracted a lot of attention. Hua Qi explained. After what happened last time, Hua Qi's attitude towards him had completely changed. He no longer had a sour face all day long and said that he would defeat him in the future. Interesting. Let's go together. Lu Ming was filled with anticipation. How strong was the rookie king from a year ago? Moreover, he was going to the bronze platform anyway. Immediately, the three of them rushed towards the bronze platform. The bronze platform was located in the middle of the 4 great academies. It was a battle platform. Huge spectator stands were built in all 4 directions of the bronze platform, enough to accommodate 100,000 people. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, the spectator stands around the bronze platform were already packed with people. At a rough estimate, there were at least tens of thousands of people. It's so lively. There are actually so many people here. Pang Shi widened his eyes and looked around. Lu Ming was also secretly amazed. The total number of bronze-level disciples in the 4 great academies was only slightly more than 50,000. This time around, no less than 30,000 people had come. It could be seen how sensational it was. Other than those who were out on missions or in seclusion, most of those who heard the news came. The 3 of them found a seat and sat down. Sounds of discussion came from all around. Do you think Feng Xinglie will succeed this time? His opponent is also a fierce person with a 9-win streak. In my opinion, Feng Xinglie will definitely win. Feng Xinglie was last year's rookie king. His talent is terrifyingly high. As the first disciple in the last 2 batches to enter the bronze list, he must have full confidence. I also think Feng Xinglie will win. Didn't you see him yesterday? He won all 9 matches in a row. His battle strength is terrifyingly strong. I don't think he even used his full strength. Winning 10 matches in a row is definitely not a problem. What I'm more concerned about is whether Feng Xinglie will continue to challenge after his victory. Continue to challenge? Then he will have to challenge the geniuses on the bronze list. If that's the case, then there will be a lot to see today. Not only this area, but around the bronze platform, there were similar discussions. Feng Xinglie, as the first disciple in the last 2 batches to enter the bronze list, naturally attracted a lot of attention. Previously, the people on the bronze list were all geniuses who joined the Mystic Essence Sword sect 2 years ago. For example, Yao Tianyu joined 2 years ago. Feng Xinglie is here. Suddenly, someone shouted. Then, the whole place quieted down. At the north entrance of the bronze platform, a young man in a yellow shirt walked over step by step. The young man looked ordinary, but he was very young. He seemed to be only 16 or 17 years old. He carried a long sword on his back and slowly walked up to the bronze platform. Then, he stood there quietly. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked up to the bronze platform. This middle-aged man was the elder in charge of managing and hosting the bronze platform. He was also the judge. He would sort out the situation on the bronze platform and report it to the sect. Feng Xinglie, your opponent today is Sun Guang. Sun Guang, please come up to the platform. The middle-aged judge announced loudly. His voice spread throughout the whole place. Shush! As soon as the judge finished his words, a sound broke through the air. An 18 or 19-year-old young man leaped a few times. His body was as fast as lightning. He was even faster than Lu Ming's dragon snake steps. He reached the bronze platform in a flash, displaying an extremely advanced body art. So fast! If I were to fight with this kind of body art, I wouldn't even be able to react in time. Many people sighed. Sun Guang jumped onto the bronze platform and faced Feng Xinglie. Feng Xinglie, I didn't expect it to be a battle between the 2 of us. That's good too. As long as I win against you, I will be able to enter the bronze list. Although you were the new king a year ago and have extraordinary talent, you are still too young. It's still too early to fight with me. Sun Guang laughed loudly. Someone said the same thing yesterday, but he couldn't even block one of my attacks. A faint voice came out from Feng Xinglie's mouth. He seemed to be very confident. Sun Guang's face suddenly darkened. I believe everyone knows the rules of the bronze platform. But here, I will repeat the rules. On the bronze platform, you are responsible for your own life and death. However, if one of you takes the initiative to admit defeat, the battle will end. The other person is not allowed to continue attacking. Violators will have their scores revoked. Also, other than the fact that you are not allowed to use pills to increase your battle strength, you are allowed to use any other methods. Now, let the battle begin. The middle-aged judge announced loudly and stepped aside. Shush! As soon as the middle-aged judge finished his words, Sun Guang's body flashed and rushed towards Feng Xinglie. His speed was much faster than when he was on the platform. Lunar Shadow Diffraction Sword, slash! When he was 10 meters away from Feng Xinglie, Sun Guang leaped high into the air and swung his long sword. Streaks of fine, crescent-like sword qi slashed towards Feng Xinglie. Such a powerful sword art. This is definitely the 6th level of a superior yellow-rank martial skill. Someone near Lu Ming couldn't help but cheer. Lu Ming's gaze flickered slightly. He could tell that Sun Guang had not only cultivated his superior yellow-level swordplay to the 6th level, but his movement technique was also at the 6th level of superior yellow level. Moreover, his cultivation was also at the peak of the 9th level of the martial master realm. In addition to the bloodline eruption, his battle strength was very strong. Chapter 98. Kang. At this moment, Feng Xinglie moved. With a sword chime, he unsheathed his sword. Not many people saw how he unsheathed his sword. Most of them only heard a sword chime and saw a white sword light flash in the air. Soon after, the crowd saw Sun Guang's dense sword qi disappear without a trace. Then, Sun Guang groaned as his body flew far away and fell on the fighting stage. What happened? Many people looked at each other. They didn't know what had happened because it happened too fast. Many people only saw Sun Guang attack, then saw a sword light flash and Sun Guang was sent flying. What? What happened? Did Sun Guang lose? On the side, Pang Shi was tongue-tied. Hua Qi was also confused. Yes, Sun Guang lost. He was defeated by Feng Xinglie's sword. Look at Sun Guang's chest, there is a wound. Lu Ming answered. Lu Ming and the people beside him quickly looked and saw a deep sword wound on Sun Guang's chest. Blood kept flowing out. Others didn't see it clearly, but Lu Ming saw it clearly. Just now, Feng Xinglie unsheathed his sword and defeated all of Sun Guang's attacks, leaving a deep wound on Sun Guang's chest. Such a fast sword, such a strong attack. Lu Ming's eyes shone with surprise. He concluded that Feng Xinglie's sword art was definitely a low profound level martial skill. On the stage, Sun Guang struggled to get up. His face was still filled with shock. He cupped his fist and said, "I lost. Thank you for showing mercy." He knew that if Feng Xinglie didn't withdraw some of his power, he would have been dead. "Thank you." Feng Xinglie cupped his fist. Sun Guang didn't say anything. He turned around and left the stage, disappearing without a trace. Since he lost, his previous records would be cancelled and he would have to start from scratch. At this moment, the middle-aged judge stepped forward and announced, "This battle, Feng Xinglie wins and enters the bronze list." Following the judge's announcement, the crowd was in an uproar. Success! Feng Xinglie has succeeded. As a new disciple in the last 2 years, he is the first to succeed in breaking into the bronze list. He is the representative of the new disciples in the last 2 years. Amazing, Feng Xinglie is too amazing. It hasn't even been 2 years since he entered the sect, and he's already on the bronze list. He really is the king of newcomers. Other than him, the others who entered the sect in the past 2 years would need at least another half a year to have a chance of entering the bronze list. Not bad. Among the previous newcomer kings, Feng Xinglie is one of the strongest. Do you think he will continue to challenge? I really hope he continues to challenge. Did you see that more than half of the geniuses ranked 30 and below on the bronze list are here? Exclamations of admiration filled the air. Beside Lu Ming, Pang Shi was also excited. One day, I will also be able to enter the bronze ranking. Hua Qi clenched his fists and said confidently. Love-struck fool, I believe you can do it. You and senior brother Lu are both fine. I don't know if I'll have a chance in this lifetime. Pang Shi said longingly. Lu Ming patted Pang Shi's shoulder and said with a smile, Big Shi, you're working so hard. I'm sure you can do it. When Pang Shi first entered the sect, he was a martial warrior 9th layer. After half a year of cultivation, he had broken through to the peak of martial master 1st layer. Although his cultivation speed was not fast, he took it one step at a time. His foundation was very solid. On the fighting stage, the middle-aged judge asked, Feng Xinglia, you're currently ranked 57 on the bronze list. You have the qualifications to challenge the geniuses on the bronze list. Do you still want to challenge? At this moment, everyone's gaze was focused on Feng Xinglia. They were all curious. Would he continue to challenge? Feng Xinglia did not answer. He seemed to be thinking. If Feng Xinglia continues to challenge, who do you think he will challenge? It's hard to say, but he will definitely challenge those ranked 45 and below because they are in the same class. That's right. If he wants to fight today, he can only challenge the geniuses on the bronze list. Look, Duanmu Hu, ranked 55, Yao Tianyu, ranked 51, Yen Su, ranked 50, and Ji Dong, ranked 48. They are all here. He is most likely to challenge them. Discussions and guesses could be heard from all around. Yao Tianyu. Lu Ming's eyes moved. He followed the crowd's gaze and saw Yao Tianyu on the east side of the stands. Yao Tianyu crossed his arms and sat there calmly, calm and composed. Beside him, there were a dozen small fries. Like He Tai and the red-robed young man, they were all familiar faces. Senior brother Yao, do you think Feng Xinglia will challenge you? A young man asked. I don't know. Yao Tianyu replied indifferently. Then, what if Feng Xinglia challenges senior brother Yao? Are you confident? The young man asked again. Feng Xinglia's returning sword is powerful, but it's not enough to challenge me. Yao Tianyu replied confidently. Of course. How can Feng Xinglia be senior brother Yao's opponent? If he overestimates himself and challenges senior brother Yao, then he is looking for trouble. The red-robed young man immediately flattered Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu smiled and looked down at the fighting stage. On the fighting stage, Feng Xinglia thought for a while and replied, I choose to continue the challenge. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere became heated. Everyone stared at Feng Xinglia, waiting to see who he would challenge. Feng Xinglia scanned the stands and then looked at the west side of the stands. Duanmu Hu, come down and fight me. Feng Xinglia said loudly. On the west side of the stands, a muscular young man stood up with a gloomy face and said, Feng Xinglia, are you sure you want to challenge me? Of course. Feng Xinglia arrived. Haha, good. Feng Xinglia, I will make you regret your choice. Duanmu Hu laughed angrily. Being challenged by someone who had just entered the bronze list was not something to be proud of. On the contrary, it was a shameful thing. It was simple. If you were challenged, it meant you were weak and looked down upon. Swoosh, Duanmu Hu jumped down from the spectator stand. With a few leaps, he covered a distance of more than 100 meters and arrived at the fighting ring. His speed was not any slower than Sun Guang's. The two stood facing each other. I didn't expect Feng Xinglia to challenge Duanmu Hu. This is going to be interesting. Not far from Lu Ming, a disciple in his 20s said. Oh? How is it interesting? The others asked. Even Lu Ming, Pang Shi, and the others looked at him. This disciple felt proud of himself when he saw that he had attracted so many people. He coughed dryly and said, you guys should have seen it. Feng Xinglia's sword art is very fast, and the explosive power is extremely strong. This sword art is a low-grade profound martial skill, returning sword. This sword art is very powerful, but it has a weakness. It consumes a lot of true qi. If you can't defeat your opponent with one strike, you will be in danger. Chapter 99. The senior disciple continued to explain, however, Duanmu Hu's martial skill is the opposite of Feng Xinglia's. Duanmu Hu's martial skill is a defensive low-grade profound martial skill, Heavenly Tiger protective art. One is for defense and the other is for offense. Isn't this interesting? Everyone was enlightened. Feng Xinglia and Duanmu Hu were like a spear and a shield. In this battle, it would depend on whether Feng Xinglia's spear attack or Duanmu Hu's shield defense was stronger. Whoever was stronger would win. This situation was not limited to this area. It was happening everywhere. Many senior disciples who had been in the sect for 5 or 8 years might not have a high cultivation, but they had sharp eyes and knew a lot of information. Many people knew the martial skills that the two of them were good at, and they became more interested. Now, let the battle begin. The referee announced and stepped aside. Boom! Boom! Instantly, Feng Xinglie and Duan Muhu exploded with powerful auras. The auras collided in the air. At this moment, Feng Xinglie moved. He unsheathed his long sword, and the sword light was like a flash of lightning, piercing through the air and stabbing towards Duan Muhu. Returning sword. This sword was even stronger than the previous one. Because Feng Xinglie had activated his bloodline. 6 chakras, level 6 bloodline. This was the first time Lu Ming saw a level 6 bloodline warrior. This sword was incomparably breathtaking. Everyone's eyes were fixed on this sword. Boom! Duan Muhu took a step forward, and a tiger's roar was heard. 2 tigers formed by genuine qi appeared around him. 2 ferocious tigers roared as they leaped around Duan Muhu, surrounding him so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. Feng Xinglie, let's see how you break my defense. Duan Muhu roared. In an instant, Feng Xinglie's long sword stabbed Duan Muhu. Roar, the 2 tigers roared and blocked in front of Duan Muhu. They collided with Feng Xinglie's long sword. At the place where the long sword and the tigers collided, a dazzling light shone. However, everyone was staring at the fighting ring, not daring to look away. They were afraid that they would miss the exciting moment. This was definitely a battle that would decide the winner in one move. If Feng Xinglie could break Duan Muhu's defense, then he would win. Otherwise, Duan Muhu would win. Could Feng Xinglie break Duan Muhu's defense? Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion as Feng Xinglie and Duan Muhu's bodies crossed each other. Who won? Bang! Suddenly, Duan Muhu fell to his knees and spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone saw that there was a deep wound on his chest, just like Sun Guang's wound. I lost. Duan Muhu stood up and left without looking back. Duan Muhu was defeated, and the whole place was in an uproar. Brilliant, truly brilliant. Although it's only one move, it's a battle between the peak of offense and defense. Not bad, today's trip wasn't in vain. Do you guys think Feng Xinglie will continue to challenge? That shouldn't be the case. His bloodline has already erupted, and he won't be able to recover in a short period of time. That's true. At that moment, the judge announced Feng Xinglie's victory. Feng Xinglie slowly walked down the stage under the admiring gazes of the audience. Amazing, too amazing. Senior brother Lu Ming, love-struck fool, let's go back. I must cultivate even harder and strive to enter the bronze list in the future. Pang Shi said with a resolute expression. Go back. The battle hasn't ended. Why should we go back? Lu Ming smiled faintly. The battle hasn't ended? Pang Shi and Hua Qi were not the only ones beside Lu Ming. Everyone else was stunned. Yes, it hasn't ended. Why would Lu Ming say that it hasn't ended? Feng Xinglie's battle has ended, but my battle has just begun. Lu Ming smiled. He then got up and leaped toward the fighting ring below. After a few breaths, Lu Ming stepped onto the bronze platform. What? What is senior brother Lu Ming doing? Pang Shi said in a daze. The others beside him were also stunned. It seems like Lu Ming wants to challenge the bronze platform today. At that moment, Hua Qi's eyes were extremely bright, and at the same time, they were filled with shock. What? Senior brother Lu Ming wants to challenge the bronze platform? Pang Shi was extremely shocked. The others nearby were also shocked. The disciples around the bronze platform were about to leave when they suddenly saw a figure fly onto the platform. They couldn't help but be stunned. Who is that? What is he doing on the bronze platform? Isn't that Lu Ming? This year's newcomer king, Lu Ming. So he is Lu Ming. What is he trying to do? Is he going to challenge the bronze platform? That's impossible. Even if he is the newcomer king, he is only this year's newcomer king. It's still too early for him to challenge the bronze platform. That's right. There was a burst of discussion around, but those who were about to leave sat down again. On the fighting stage, the middle-aged judge and Feng Xinglia, who had already walked to the side of the stage, stopped. Lu Ming, what are you doing on the stage? The middle-aged judge asked with a smile. Elder, Lu Ming requests to challenge the bronze platform. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. The moment these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. Nestle, he really wants to challenge the bronze platform. He's too arrogant and too impatient. Lu Ming is only this year's newcomer king, and he wants to challenge the bronze platform. Too impatient. He's just a child. In my opinion, he saw Feng Xinglia's consecutive victories and rushed up in envy. If he challenges now, there's almost no chance of him succeeding. That's not necessarily true. I heard that 3 months ago, when he destroyed the Star Moon Pavilion, he displayed battle strength that was not weaker than a martial master realm 9th realm martial artist. So what? What's the use of a martial master realm 9th realm martial artist on the bronze platform? Who on the bronze platform is weaker than a martial master realm 9th realm martial artist? I admit Lu Ming's talent, but he just entered the sect this year. If he had another year, I won't deny that he could be like Feng Xinglia and enter the bronze list. But now, it's almost impossible. If you want to challenge the bronze platform, you can't rely on cultivation alone. Cultivation can be improved quickly if you have some kind of treasure. However, martial skills, secret techniques, etc., require time to comprehend them. Those on the bronze list who can cultivate profound level martial skills, which one of them isn't talented and spent a lot of time to comprehend them? Maybe he just wants to win a few matches in a row. Win a few matches in a row. He's the newcomer king, not an ordinary disciple. If he only wins a few matches in a row, then he might as well not go up the stage and embarrass himself. That's true. The crowd was in an uproar, but the discussion was almost one-sided. They all thought that Lu Ming was too impulsive and should not challenge now. He should be like Feng Xinglia and wait until his battle strength reached a certain level before exploding out and shocking the world. In the southern stands, Pang Shi and the others were still in a daze. Hua Qi, you. How many matches do you think senior brother Lu Ming can win? Can he enter the bronze list? Pang Shi asked in a daze. Lu Ming, I can't see through him anymore. But he's not an impulsive person. Since he's going up, he must have some confidence. Hua Qi said. Although he said so, Hua Qi's eyes were still filled with shock. That's true, I also believe in senior brother Lu Ming. Pang Shi scratched his head. Chapter 100. Eastern Grandstand. Lu Ming, it's that bastard Lu Ming. He's really overestimating himself to challenge the bronze platform. The red-robed youth beside Yao Tianyu shouted. He's really overestimating himself. But that's good. We can send someone to kill him. Senior brother Yao, what do you think? Another youth said coldly as he looked at Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu looked at Lu Ming with a murderous glint in his eyes. Sure. He had been looking for a chance to kill Lu Ming. Since Lu Ming had come to the bronze platform, he would not let go of this opportunity. In the other grandstands, some of the geniuses on the bronze list were also looking at Lu Ming curiously. On the bronze platform. Lu Ming, are you really going to challenge the bronze platform? The middle-aged judge asked in surprise. That's right. Lu Ming nodded again. All right, since you've decided, I won't stop you. Let the challenge begin. The middle-aged judge announced straightforwardly. At the side of the fighting ring, Feng Xinglia looked at Lu Ming curiously. There was a glint in his eyes. He then moved and flew to the spectator stand in the north, watching with great interest. At this moment, the judge had already announced the challenge. The crowd quieted down and watched seriously. Just a moment ago, the previous newcomer king had successfully made it to the bronze list. Immediately, this year's newcomer king began his challenge. Thinking about it, it was really interesting. This had never happened in the history of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. How far could Lu Ming go? Many people were curious about this. Who's going to fight me first? Lu Ming looked around and said in a clear voice. The first 5 rounds on the bronze platform were relatively casual. Anyone could challenge them. But after the 5th round, people with similar winning streaks would have to fight each other. Otherwise, they would not be able to display their strength. Those below the 9th level of the Martial Master realm were silent. Although they felt that Lu Ming would not be able to win many rounds, Lu Ming's strength was still there. A few months ago, he was already comparable to a 9th level Martial Master. I'll fight you. A figure quickly jumped onto the fighting ring. It's Duanmu Jinming from the White Tiger Hall. It's said that his cultivation has already reached the mid-9th layer Martial Master. As soon as this person stepped onto the stage, cheers could be heard from all around. Duanmu Jinming was about 20 years old. His face was pale, and his eyes were sinister. He stared at Lu Ming and sneered, "Lu Ming, you really don't know how to be patient. You actually came to challenge the bronze platform. I'll make you stop in the first round." The newcomer king has challenged the bronze platform, and stopped in the first round. This matter will definitely create a new record in the Mystic Essence Sword sect, and go down in history. Duanmu Jinming's tone was filled with mockery. As expected, your Duanmu family is the first to run up here. However, I noticed that your Duanmu family has one thing in common. You guys don't have the slightest bit of ability, but you guys are very good at boasting. Lu Ming said indifferently. The moment these words were spoken, the people from the Duanmu clan were instantly enraged. Damn it! Damn it! He actually dares to look down on my Duanmu clan. Duanmu Jinming, be ruthless and cripple him. Let him know the power of my Duanmu clan. Cripple him. Duanmu Jinming's eyes were incomparably gloomy as he said coldly, "Lu Ming, you will pay a painful price for your words." Duanmu Jinming unsheathed his sword, and a white sword radiance shot out from his sword. It was incomparably sharp. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a huge sword that was 1.5 meters long appeared in his hand. This huge sword was left behind by Jing Qian. There was no need to use the flame-patterned spear to deal with such a small fry. Moreover, Lu Ming also wanted to see if he could unleash the power of the flowing light sword art with such a huge sword after his physical body had improved. Alright, I don't need to say more about the rules. Let the battle begin. The middle-aged judge announced. Hurry up and make your move. I don't have that much time. There are still more than 10 battles. Lu Ming said indifferently. His tone was filled with disdain, as if he did not put Duanmu Jinming in his eyes at all. Moreover, he said that there were more than 10 battles later, as if he could really win 10 battles in a row. Nest, how arrogant. Isn't that so? He's too arrogant. However, the more arrogant he is, the one who will be humiliated when he is defeated later. There were discussions all around. Damn it! See if I don't cripple you. Duanmu Jinming roared angrily. He moved his body and continued to charge toward Lu Ming. Ferocious Tiger Sword Art. Duanmu Jinming roared and slashed out with his battle sword. There was a faint shadow of a ferocious tiger on the battle sword. It was incomparably powerful as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Middle stage Martial Master Realm. Is that all you have? Lu Ming curled the corner of his mouth and slashed out with his sword. This sword was very direct. It was not any sword art, but a casual slash. It was completely brute force. Clang! This sword slashed directly on Duanmu Jinming's battle sword. Then, everyone saw that Duanmu Jinming's battle sword was bent out of shape and the sword body heavily hit Duanmu Jinming's chest. Duanmu Jinming's eyes instantly popped out. Boom! With a loud boom, Duanmu Jinming's body flew back like a cannonball. He flew for more than 20 meters and then slid on the fighting stage for more than 10 meters before falling off the fighting stage. The whole place suddenly fell into a dead silence. The atmosphere seemed to have frozen at this moment. In fact, many people were still loudly criticizing Lu Ming for his arrogance. However, at this moment, their expressions froze. One sword, only one sword, an ordinary sword, directly blasted Duanmu Jinming out of the fighting stage. Isn't this too strong? Isn't the gap too big? Good, senior brother Lu Ming is mighty. Pang Shi reacted and shouted excitedly. At this moment, the others also reacted. This is too powerful, isn't it? He defeated Duanmu Jinming in one move. Indeed, it seems that I have underestimated Lu Ming. In my opinion, Lu Ming should be at the late stage of the martial master realm, or even at the peak of the martial master realm. With this strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to win 5 times in a row. The newcomer king is indeed the newcomer king. We still underestimated him. Many people's faces turned grave. Those who had looked down on Lu Ming felt their faces turn red. Who else wants to fight? Lu Ming didn't even look at Duanmu Jinming, who had fallen off the fighting stage. His eyes continued to look around. Let me. Then, a young man jumped onto the fighting stage. Junior brother Lu Ming, please advise me. This young man's cultivation was at the late stage of the martial master realm, but he didn't dare to look down on Lu Ming. He cupped his fists and said politely. Well said, please. Lu Ming said with a smile. Boom. This young man used an iron rod. When he waved it, it whistled and its power was extraordinary. Lu Ming was a little more polite to this young man. He used 10 moves to blast him off the fighting stage. Chapter 101. On the eastern grandstand, Yao Qianyu's face darkened. The other people's faces were also ghastly. Damn it! Lu Ming's cultivation level has improved so much in just a few months. Senior brother Yao, you have to kill him. Otherwise, he might be able to make it to the bronze list after some time. The red-robed young man said. Why don't we let Jiang Hao go? A young man suggested. Yao Qianyu nodded and ordered, Jiang Hao, go up. Don't hold back. Don't give Lu Ming a chance to admit defeat. On the side, a thin young man smiled coldly and said, Senior brother Yao, don't worry. I won't give him a chance to admit defeat. After saying that, his figure flickered a few times and appeared on the fighting ring like a ghost. Isn't that Jiang Hao? Azure Dragon Institute's Jiang Hao. Yes, it's him. Why is he here? Lu Ming is in danger. Jiang Hao had a 5-match winning streak a year ago, but for some reason, he hasn't participated in the challenge on the bronze platform. Therefore, his result was automatically cancelled, but his strength is definitely above that. Looks like Yao Qianyu is here. Lu Ming has offended Yao Qianyu before. Let's see how Lu Ming will deal with it. As soon as Jiang Hao appeared on the stage, there was a heated discussion. Yao Qianyu asked you to come up. Lu Ming looked at Jiang Hao. Just now, he saw Jiang Hao beside Yao Qianyu. Hee. Lu Ming, I wasn't there the last time at the Star Moon Pavilion. Otherwise, you would have been a corpse. But it's not too late now. If you want to admit defeat, do it now. I won't give you any chance later. Jiang Hao smiled coldly. That's what I want to say to you. Lu Ming said indifferently. At this moment, the referee announced the start of the challenge. Whoosh! As soon as the referee finished speaking, Jiang Hao's figure disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was more than 20 meters away. Then, with another flash, he was already in front of Lu Ming. His figure was as fast as a ghost. Clang! At this moment, Jiang Hao suddenly drew his sword from his waist. This was a flexible sword that was wrapped around Jiang Hao's waist. Now that it was suddenly pulled out, it was impossible to guard against. In addition, Jiang Hao's movement technique was extremely fast. He was like an assassin walking in the dark. Even if one's cultivation was higher than his, they would still fall into his trap. Unfortunately, Lu Ming was no ordinary person. Ultimate Flowing Light. Lu Ming executed the fastest move of the Flowing Light sword art with his huge sword. In the past, he had always used a thin sword to execute the Flowing Light sword art. The whistling of the sword was sharp and dense. But now, he was using a huge sword. The speed was just as fast, but the whistling of the sword was as loud as thunder. Poochie! A head flew high into the air and then rolled down the fighting stage. Only a headless corpse was left on the fighting stage. One move, another move. Jiang Hao, who had won 5 consecutive victories, was killed on the fighting ring. This time, even some of the geniuses on the bronze list had serious expressions. What a fast swordsmanship! What a strong power! This Lu Ming's swordsmanship is actually average. But his explosive power is so strong that it increased the speed of his swordsmanship by a large margin. He killed Jiang Hao in one move. Could it be that he practiced the path of body refinement? Some of the geniuses on the bronze list whispered. Lu Ming wins. The middle-aged judge announced. Then he asked people to clean up the fighting stage and carry away Jiang Hao's body. Bang! In the eastern stands, Yao Tianyu slammed the armrest of his seat. His true qi gushed out and smashed the armrest. If I'm not wrong, this Lu Ming should have practiced the path of body refinement. He Tai said. That's right. He must have practiced the path of body refinement. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such explosive power. But he didn't practice the path of body refinement last time. In just 3 months, his body can't be that strong. He Tai, if Lu Ming wins 8 consecutive battles, you go and finish him. Yao Tianyu ordered. Okay. He Tai nodded. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at the eastern stands. Yao Tianyu, why did you send someone to die? Don't worry, it'll be your turn soon. Lu Ming said in a clear voice. Provocation. This was a naked provocation. Everyone's gaze shifted from Lu Ming to Yao Tianyu. They couldn't help but think of the grudge between Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu 3 months ago. Interesting. Many people were looking forward to it. This year's newcomer king was too strong. He dared to talk to Yao Tianyu like that. They wondered what the consequences would be. Ha ha ha. Yao Tianyu laughed out of anger. He didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. He sneered, Lu Ming, I really hope you can win 10 consecutive battles and get on the bronze list to challenge me. At that time, I'll let you know what despair is. Yao Tianyu, you and your subordinate dog are really the same. Just now, Jiang Hao told me to admit defeat as soon as possible, or else I wouldn't have a chance. In the end, reality proved that he was just a useless person with a mouth full of bubbles. Now, you're the same. Birds of a feather flock together. Lu Ming curled his lips. Humph. Lu Ming, let's see who's the one with a mouth full of bubbles. Yao Tianyu snorted coldly. His face was gloomy and he didn't say anything else. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He then looked around and said, Now, who wants to fight me? The crowd quieted down. They looked at each other. For a moment, no one dared to go up. Lu Ming's combat strength had been revealed just now. Jiang Hao was killed in 1 strike. He definitely had the strength to win 7 or even 8 consecutive battles. Who would go up and look for trouble? After a while, a young man jumped onto the stage. But this young man was very polite. He cupped his fists and said, Junior brother Lu Ming is a dragon among men. I know I'm not your opponent, but I can't resist the urge to spar with junior brother Lu Ming. I hope junior brother Lu Ming will go easy on me. As the saying goes, one doesn't hit a smiling face. Since he was being polite, Lu Ming also smiled and said, You're too polite. Then let's spar. This young man was not weak. At the beginning of the battle, Lu Ming deliberately went easy on him. After a dozen moves, the young man took the initiative to admit defeat. After that, there were no obstacles. 5 consecutive victories, 6 consecutive victories, 7 consecutive victories. Finally, 8 consecutive victories. These people had no enmity with Lu Ming. They were all very polite. Therefore, Lu Ming did not erupt with too much strength. He only won by a small margin. Especially in the 8th battle, Lu Ming fought with a young expert who had 7 consecutive victories. He suppressed his cultivation and exchanged more than 30 moves with him before winning by a small margin. This made many people think that Lu Ming's combat strength should be around 8 consecutive victories. Lu Ming smiled faintly. If not, how could a big fish appear? He Tai, we have a rough idea of Lu Ming's strength. You go. Yao Tianyu ordered. Senior brother Yao, don't worry. I will break all the bones in his body. Chapter 102. He Tai has made his move. It's him. This is going to be interesting. He Tai's body is extremely strong, and his close combat ability is also very strong. Lu Ming seems to have also cultivated the way of body refining. Who do you think will win? It's hard to say. He Tai had 8 consecutive victories a few months ago. He must be stronger now. However, Lu Ming, the new king of this year, rose too quickly. It's really shocking. No one knows if he has any trump cards. Therefore, it's hard to say who will win this battle. Yeah. I didn't come in vain today. Everyone stared at the fighting ring with great interest. Lu Ming had exceeded everyone's expectations. He was just a new disciple this year, but he had already won 8 battles in a row. As long as he won 2 more battles, he would be able to enter the bronze list. This was rare even in the history of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. What everyone was concerned about was whether he could win or not. Would He Tai be able to stop him? In the fighting ring, Lu Ming and He Tai stood opposite each other. Lu Ming, last time, you were saved by Mulans. This time, let's see who can save you. He Tai revealed a cruel smile. Lu Ming touched his forehead speechlessly and said, "Look, again. I just said that birds of a feather flock together. Did Yao Tianyu teach you all this? Let me teach you. Saying such words is the right of the strong. The weak do not have the right to say such words." Ha! There was a burst of laughter. Lu Ming's words were obviously mocking Yao Tianyu. It was too interesting. You'll soon understand who's the strong one. He Tai said with a gloomy face. Is that so? You're good at nothing but your body and your fists. Then I'll use my fists to fight with you. Lu Ming smiled faintly, then waved his hand and the giant sword disappeared. He faced He Tai with his bare hands. This move caused the crowd to be in an uproar again. What? Lu Ming is actually not using a weapon and wants to fight He Tai with his fists. Unwise, unwise. Lu Ming underestimated the enemy too much. Isn't this using his own weakness against the enemy's strength? He's still young after all. He's still too careless in his actions. I don't think so. Lu Ming doesn't seem like an unwise person. In the Eastern Grandstand. Lu Ming is really courting death. I didn't expect him to be so stupid to actually compete with He Tai in a fist fight. Idiot, to think that I thought he was someone important. Beside Yao Tianyu, the red-robed young man and the others laughed mockingly. Yao Tianyu's eyes flashed and he frowned slightly, but he didn't say anything. On the fighting ring, He Tai saw that Lu Ming had put away his battle sword and was overjoyed. He shouted, "Lu Ming, you said it yourself. Don't go back on your words." He originally only had 60 to 70% chance of defeating Lu Ming, but now that Lu Ming had actually abandoned his battle sword, he immediately felt that he had a 100% chance of killing Lu Ming. How could he not be happy? Lu Ming was a typical example of courting death. Don't worry, Lu Ming, never go back on my words. But you better not admit defeat later. There was an inexplicable smile at the corners of Lu Ming's mouth. Don't worry, if I admit defeat today, I'll get out of here. He Tai immediately said, as if he was afraid that Lu Ming would go back on his words. However, in the grandstand, Yao Qianyu's frown deepened. He didn't know why, but when he saw Lu Ming's calm expression, he had a bad premonition in his heart. At this moment, the referee announced the start of the match. Take this. He Tai roared. The muscles all over his body swelled up. There was a layer of faint black light on his skin, making his muscles look like pieces of black iron, making He Tai look like a steel monster. Bam! Bam! He Tai strode forward. Every step he took covered a distance of 10 meters. Every step he took on the fighting stage caused a loud rumbling sound to ring out. In a few breaths, He Tai rushed in front of Lu Ming. His huge fist was aimed at Lu Ming's head, with a sinister smile on his face. At this moment, Lu Ming punched out. This punch was aimed at He Tai's fist. Boom! The two men's fists collided with each other, causing a loud explosion. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They stared at the two, and a thought flashed through their minds. Can Lu Ming withstand it? But soon, they knew the answer. A strong figure stumbled back 5 or 6 steps before he could regain his balance. This figure was actually He Tai. And Lu Ming's figure didn't even sway. Hiss, the sound of people inhaling cold air was heard. The air seemed to have frozen at this moment. Almost everyone opened their mouths wide enough to stuff a duck egg. Their eyes were wide open, and their eyeballs almost popped out. This was unbelievable. Lu Ming abandoned his weapon and fought with his fist. How could he push He Tai back 5 or 6 steps with one punch? Could it be that Lu Ming also practiced fist techniques? Could it be that Lu Ming's physical body was stronger than He Tai's? But that was impossible. They hadn't heard that Lu Ming practiced the way of body refining before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in such a sorry state 3 months ago. But how could his physical body be cultivated to such a level in just 3 months? Unless he had obtained some heaven and earth treasure. Ah! Lu Ming, I'm going to kill you. He Tai was pushed back by Lu Ming's punch. Looking at the shocked eyes around him, he felt greatly insulted and hated Lu Ming to the bone. He let out an angry roar and put his hands on his waist. A pair of metal gloves appeared on his hands, and he rushed towards Lu Ming. In the process of rushing out, his bloodline erupted. The level 4 giant bear bloodline increased his strength by another 40%. Then I'll play with you. Lu Ming's mouth was still holding an indifferent smile. With a thought, his strength increased a bit and he punched towards He Tai. Barehanded against He Tai's spirit weapon gloves. Boom! Their fists collided for the second time. A roar that was even more intense than before rang out. Then, at the place where the two people's fists collided, a burst of powerful strength chi erupted. The strength chi was like a gale, sweeping in all directions. Some of the disciples who were nearby were almost swept up by the gale. Be careful. There was a lot of noise. These disciples used their chi to resist the gale. On the fighting stage, Lu Ming and He Tai's figures swayed slightly. They were evenly matched. He blocked it. Lu Ming blocked it again. Unbelievable. Lu Ming hasn't even activated his bloodline, and he's barehanded. He Tai has already activated his bloodline and is even wearing a pair of spirit weapon gloves. Too strong. Lu Ming is too strong. As long as he can hold on for 2 minutes, when He Tai's bloodline power is exhausted, he will win. Not bad. Come again. Lu Ming's indifferent voice rang out. Violent bear fist, go to hell. He Tai roared and punched out again. The shock in his heart was stronger than anyone else. He knew that he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, he would really be defeated after 2 minutes. He Tai erupted with all his strength. Boom! Lu Ming punched out again. This time, he increased his strength. Chapter 103. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the early stage of the martial master realm. Coupled with the power of the true dragon battle skill, his true chi cultivation had surpassed the peak of the martial master realm. On the other hand, Lu Ming's physical body had reached the lesser second grade while He Tai was only at the greater perfection of the first grade. Lu Ming had surpassed He Tai in both aspects. Therefore, Lu Ming could easily suppress He Tai without using his full strength. He Tai, with your strength, you have the nerve to call yourself an expert? I've said it before, there is no difference between you and Jiang Hao. Lu Ming's voice rang out, causing He Tai to roar in anger. He attacked Lu Ming with all his might. I'm done playing with you. It's about time to end this. Lu Ming said softly and then increased his strength. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming continued to use the flame dragon fists. His fists were wrapped in a ball of red true chi. Every time he punched out, there was a faint sound of a dragon's roar. He Tai could not resist at all and his body was constantly pushed back. After a dozen punches, He Tai spat out a mouthful of blood. He Tai was about to lose. The crowd was silent as they watched this scene. They knew that He Tai's defeat was certain and there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. Bang! Bang! After a few more punches, He Tai's body kept trembling and blood kept flowing out of his body. At this moment, he really wanted to admit defeat. However, when he thought of what he had just said, he swallowed the words back. Lu Ming sneered and increased his strength. Crack! The sound of bones breaking came from He Tai's arm and his body kept retreating. Lu Ming rushed forward and punched He Tai's stomach. He Tai let out a blood-curdling scream. His sturdy body flew a dozen meters away and landed heavily on the fighting ring, causing the fighting ring to shake violently. Lu Ming took a step forward and came to He Tai's side. He looked down at He Tai and said with a faint smile, "Did you just say that you wanted to break my bones?" No. No, there's no such thing. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. He Tai looked at Lu Ming's cold eyes and felt a chill in his heart. He was so shocked that he couldn't be any more shocked. He hurriedly shouted, "Admit defeat." He knew that if he didn't admit defeat, Lu Ming would really break his bones. Oh? Admit defeat? Then get off the platform. You said it yourself. If you break the contract, I don't mind breaking the contract too. Lu Ming sneered. He Tai's face was extremely ugly. He had indeed said that if Yi Futian admitted defeat, he would get out of the fighting ring. But at that time, he thought that he would definitely win and never thought that he would lose. That was why he said that. Now that he had really lost, how could he do that in front of so many people? But if he didn't do it, Lu Ming could use this as an excuse to continue attacking him. Lu Ming, don't go overboard. It's best not to go overboard. In the stands, Yao Qianyu stood up and said coldly. Go overboard? Yao Qianyu, why didn't I see you go overboard in the past? Now that your man is lying at my feet like a dog, I stand up and say something about going overboard. What kind of bullshit logic are you talking about? Lu Ming glanced at Yao Qianyu and scolded him loudly. Yao Qianyu's face instantly turned extremely ugly and gloomy. Yao Qianyu, you don't have to talk nonsense. It's your turn soon. Lu Ming stopped looking at Yao Qianyu and continued to look at He Tai. Are you going to get out or not? If not, I'll make you do it myself. Then he lifted his foot and was about to step on He Tai's body. During this process, the middle-aged judge didn't say a word. He had to uphold all the agreements made on the battle stage. Wait a minute, I'll get out. I'll get out. He Tai suddenly shouted. Compared to being broken by Lu Ming, he chose to get out in the end. Immediately, he rolled on the fighting ring in humiliation. His movements were clumsy and ridiculous. He rolled dozens of times before he fell off the fighting ring with a plop. Everyone present was dumbfounded. After a while, they burst into laughter. He Tai's face flushed red. He was too ashamed to show his face. he didn't have the face to stay any longer. He slipped out of the bronze platform. After today, He Tai would become a complete laughingstock. In the stands, Yao Tianyu's killing intent was so strong that it couldn't be dispersed. He Tai was his man. If He Tai was humiliated, he would be humiliated as well. Lu Ming, Lu Ming, Lu Ming, I swear I'm not a man if I don't kill you. Yao Tianyu roared in his heart. His killing intent was unparalleled. At this moment, the judge announced that Lu Ming was the winner. 9 consecutive victories. Lu Ming had achieved 9 consecutive victories. He was only one step away from 10 consecutive victories. Countless people looked on with anticipation. In the history of the Mystic Essence Sword sect, there weren't many people who could make it to the bronze list in their first year. In the last 10 years, there was only one person. That person was one of the Mystic Essence Sword sect's gold-ranked disciples. He was also the #1 expert among the Mystic Essence Sword sect's disciples, one of the 6 heroes of the Blazing Sun sect, Feng Wuji. Feng Wuji was a true peerless genius. Could Lu Ming achieve that? In the next round, Lu Ming will be up against the powerhouse who has a 9-win streak. Who among you who has a 9-win streak wants to come up for a fight? The middle-aged judge announced. For a long time, no one spoke. 9 consecutive victories. Only one match away from 10 consecutive victories. Of course, they had to be cautious. Otherwise, if they lost, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Lu Ming's strength was unfathomable. Those who had 9 consecutive victories wouldn't go up if they weren't confident. After waiting for a long time, seeing that no one came up, the judge said, "All right. Since no one wants to come up, I'll draw lots. Whoever gets the lot has to come up." This was one of the rules of the bronze platform. If it wasn't for this rule, no one would dare to challenge those who were stronger than them. Wouldn't that mean they wouldn't be able to make it to the bronze list? After the judge finished speaking, someone came up to the stage and handed him a box. Inside the box were the names of all the 9 consecutive winners. The judge fumbled around casually. After a while, he took out a bamboo stick with a name written on it. "Wu Hao, go up and fight." The judge's voice resounded throughout the arena. On the western side of the stands, a young man stood up with a helpless expression on his face. Since he was drawn, he could only fight. Wu Hao leaped a few times and went up to the stage. "Junior brother Lu, please." Wu Hao cupped his fists with a solemn expression. Lu Ming could easily suppress He Tai. This made him feel a lot of pressure. "Please," Lu Ming said. After the judge announced the start of the match, the two of them began to fight. Wu Hao was able to obtain 9 consecutive victories because he had true ability. He had a movement technique and a sword skill, both of which were high-grade yellow class. Moreover, he had already cultivated them to the 6th stage. His talent was high. Unfortunately, he met Lu Ming. He was destined to lose. Lu Ming didn't use his full strength. He only used the giant sword in his hand to display the flowing light sword art. He only defeated Wu Hao after a few dozen moves. 10 consecutive victories. After defeating Wu Hao, it meant 10 consecutive victories. And 10 consecutive victories meant that one was on the bronze list. Chapter 104. The entire bronze platform was in an uproar. Lu Ming had really made it to the bronze list. Today, there were 2 newcomer kings who had made it to the bronze list. One was from the previous batch, and the other was from the current batch. This had never happened before in the history of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Many people cheered. They had not come in vain today. They had come to see if Feng Xinglie could make it to the bronze list. In the end, Feng Xinglie did not disappoint and made it to the bronze list. He even defeated Duanmu Hu, who was ranked 55th. They had thought that was the end, but the truth was that it was not over yet. Because Lu Ming had made it to the Colosseum. At first, no one was optimistic about Lu Ming. They thought that Lu Ming had made it to the Colosseum on impulse after seeing Feng Xinglie's glory. However, the facts proved that they were wrong. Lu Ming displayed his super powerful combat ability. He defeated all his opponents and directly rushed to the bronze list. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Many of them had previously said that Lu Ming was arrogant and overconfident, that it was impossible for him to succeed, and so on. Now, they had been slapped in the face by the facts. However, they did not care anymore. They were all agitated and releasing their inner excitement. Nest, he's too strong. He made it to the bronze list in his first year. In the past 10 years, only senior brother Feng Wuji had done it. Who is senior brother Feng Wuji? He's a peerless genius, one of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun. I didn't expect Lu Ming to do it. Is Lu Ming a genius like senior brother Feng Wuji? Not necessarily. Some people are strong in the early stages, but their potential is not as strong as before. But Lu Ming's performance is indeed very strong. Actually, other than senior brother Feng Wuji, Duan Mulin from the White Tiger Hall can do it too. But he awakened his bloodline too early and became a silver disciple. That's why he didn't make it to the bronze list. Oh, I've heard about that too. Lu Ming, as the newcomer king, had won 10 battles in a row. Many disciples had begun to compare him with the strongest geniuses in the past. Senior brother Lu Ming is mighty. Senior brother Lu Ming is invincible. In the southern stands, Pang Shi roared excitedly, his face flushed red with excitement. Brother, could it be that you know senior brother Lu Ming? Nearby, someone asked Pang Shi. When he addressed Lu Ming, he had already added the words senior brother. Of course. Senior apprentice brother Lu Ming and I are roommates in the same monastery. Pang Shi said proudly. He's actually senior brother Lu Ming's roommate. Junior brother Pang, if there's an opportunity in the future, you must introduce senior brother Lu Ming to us. The other disciples immediately said. If one had a backer in the Mystic Essence Sword sect, many things would be much easier. Lu Ming was a new disciple this year. The talent he had displayed was extremely shocking. It was unknown what kind of realm he would reach in the future. Many smart people were already thinking of how to get closer to Lu Ming. I can try. But I can't guarantee that senior brother Lu Ming won't have the time. Pang Shi scratched his head in a simple and honest manner. That's for sure. The others all said. Beside Pang Shi, Hua Qi's eyes were also filled with shock. At the same time, there was also deep admiration. Around the bronze platform, the geniuses on the bronze rankings all had different expressions. For example, Yen Su, who was ranked 50th, and Ji Dong, who was ranked 48th, both had grave expressions. As for Feng Xinglia, his eyes were shining. He looked at Lu Ming with shock and admiration, as well as an intense battle intent. As for Yao Tianyu, his expression was incomparably gloomy. At the same time, his eyes were filled with killing intent. As for the geniuses ranked higher on the bronze rankings, their eyes were shining. No one knew what they were thinking. Do you think Lu Ming will continue to challenge? I think so. Didn't you see? Previously, he mentioned Yao Tianyu by name. I think the person he wants to challenge is definitely Yao Tianyu. If he really challenges Yao Tianyu, then it will be interesting. Actually, I think it will be even more interesting if he challenges Feng Xinglia. Both of them are newcomer kings. Yes, yes. Around them, the disciples of the 4 courtyards began to guess if Lu Ming would continue to challenge. At this time, the middle-aged judge announced, Lu Ming, you have won 10 battles in a row. According to the rules, you are ranked 58th. I will report this to the sect. Now, do you still want to challenge? The middle-aged judge looked at Lu Ming and asked. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had been in charge of the bronze platform for many years and had seen all kinds of geniuses. However, geniuses like Lu Ming were extremely rare. Everyone's gaze fell on Lu Ming. They wanted to know who Lu Ming would challenge. Would it be Yao Tianyu? As expected, Lu Ming's gaze turned to Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu looked coldly at Lu Ming. Yao Tianyu, 3 months ago, I said that I wanted to challenge you. However, at that time, you were high and mighty and said that I did not have the right to challenge you. Now, do I have the right? Lu Ming looked at Yao Tianyu and said word by word. Yao Tianyu said in a low voice, Lu Ming, I admit that your talent is not bad. You do have the right to challenge me. However, do you think, then why are you still talking nonsense? Get down here and fight me. Lu Ming interrupted Yao Tianyu's words and shouted in a domineering manner. Kakik, Yao Tianyu had never enjoyed such treatment. He was interrupted by Lu Ming halfway through his words and even asked him to get down and fight. He only felt a surge of anger in his chest, almost causing internal injuries. He clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Lu Ming, do you dare to fight me to the death? Yao Tianyu roared in anger. That's what I want. Get down here. Lu Ming's battle intent was arrogant and there was no trace of fear. Swoosh, Yao Tianyu's figure flickered and appeared on the fighting ring, facing Lu Ming. Do you really want to fight to the death? The middle-aged judge asked. That's right. Lu Ming said decisively. I must kill Lu Ming in a fight to the death. Yao Tianyu said coldly. All right, then let's fight to the death. The middle-aged judge announced loudly. Although one of them would definitely die in a fight to the death, it would be a great loss to the Mystic Essence Sword sect no matter who it was. However, the path of martial arts was fraught with thorns and difficulties. Every pinnacle powerhouse had been honed through life and death situations. The middle-aged referee and the higher-ups of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were well aware of this. Therefore, they wouldn't stop the disciples from fighting to the death. No matter how talented one was, as long as it was a fair fight, they would not stop it. It was worth it to give birth to a peerless expert if 10 geniuses died in a fight. As the referee's voice fell, the atmosphere in the stadium was ignited once again. It was a boiling scene. Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu were going to fight to the death. That meant that only one of them could leave the fighting ring today. Who would emerge victorious between the two of them? Yao Tianyu was also a super genius. In the newcomers trial 2 years ago, he was one of the top contenders for the title of Newcomer King. Now, he was only 17 years old. It was very rare for him to reach such a cultivation level. As for Lu Ming, he was a super genius among super geniuses. He was the newcomer king this year and had made it to the bronze list in his first year. Chapter 105. Love-struck fool, do you think senior brother Lu Ming can win? In the southern stands, Pang Shi couldn't help but worry about Lu Ming. I don't know. Hua Qi shook his head and said, Yao Tianyu hasn't fought for a long time. Although he's only ranked 51st, no one knows if he has any trump cards. But I reckon that even if Yao Tianyu has a trump card, he won't be much stronger than Lu Ming. Hua Qi said. Why? Pang Shi asked. Because Yao Tianyu is afraid. Afraid? He's going to have a life-and-death battle with Lu Ming. Why would he be afraid? Pang Shi asked in surprise. It's because he's going to have a life-and-death battle that he's afraid. Lu Ming's talent is too high. Yao Tianyu knows that if he doesn't deal with Lu Ming now, he won't have a chance in the future. He's afraid of Lu Ming's talent, so he wants to deal with Lu Ming now. Hua Qi analyzed. Then wouldn't Lu Ming be in danger? Pang Shi's face changed. Not necessarily. I've seen through Lu Ming from the beginning. Hua Qi said. At this moment, several graceful figures appeared in the southern stands. It was Mulan's, Feng Wu, and the others. Obviously, they had rushed over after hearing the news of Lu Ming's challenge. Elder Mulan's senior sister Feng Wu. Pang Shi immediately greeted them when he saw them. Mulan's, Feng Wu, and the others came to Pang Shi's side. The others hurriedly made way for them. Lu Ming really made it to the bronze list. But isn't it a little too hasty to have a life-and-death battle with Yao Tianyu? Feng Wu's eyes were filled with surprise and worry. Don't worry. Lu Ming is very meticulous. He is not that impulsive. Moreover, since the first day I met him, he has repeatedly exceeded my expectations. I believe that he will not disappoint me today." Mulan smiled. Her smile was incomparably charming, causing some of the hot-blooded male disciples to be dumbstruck. Some of them even started drooling. She was simply too alluring. At this moment, Mulan's and the others were not the only ones on the spectator stands. There were also a few more geniuses on the bronze ranking. Obviously, they had all rushed over after hearing the news. Boom! Boom! At this moment, on the battle stage, Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu simultaneously released their powerful auras. Their auras collided in the air, forming a strong gale that swept through the surroundings. "Lu Ming, I will now show you my true strength." Yao Tianyu roared, and a saber appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and slashed at Lu Ming. A saber light shot out. The pale white saber light was more than 10 meters long. It tore through the air and space, bringing with it a terrifying might as it slashed towards Lu Ming's head. Yao Tianyu's famous martial skill, profound grade low-grade saber art, wind-breaking 8 slashes. As soon as Yao Tianyu made his move, someone exclaimed. Sure enough, he has cultivated a profound grade martial skill. Let's test its power. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He stomped heavily on the ground and shot forward, slashing at Yao Tianyu's saber with his sword. For the time being, he did not need to use his spear art. Lu Ming's strength was incomparable. The giant sword in his hand was as light as a feather in his hand. The giant sword slashed out, shattering Yao Tianyu's saber light. The giant sword heavily struck Yao Tianyu's saber. Clang! There was an earth-shattering explosion, and sparks flew in all directions. The two of them flew back at the same time. They were evenly matched in the first move. He blocked it. Lu Ming actually blocked Yao Tianyu's profound grade saber art. Lu Ming must have cultivated the path of body tempering. He made use of his powerful physical body and combined martial arts to unleash powerful combat abilities. That was why he was able to block Yao Tianyu's black-level saber technique. Physical strength versus profound grade saber art. Who is stronger? The surrounding disciples of the 4 great academies all stared at the arena. Lu Ming, let's see how many saber strikes you can block. Yao Tianyu roared. His attacks were like a tide. Saber light flashed, breaking through the air to kill. Once again, he attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming held his giant sword and fought with Yao Tianyu. Clang! Clang! Violent collisions occurred unceasingly. Booming sounds were unceasingly heard. Powerful sword chi and saber chi surged out, forming a powerful storm that swept out in all directions. At the same time, sword chi and saber light slashed at the arena. However, the arena was built extremely hard. There were even inscriptions carved on it. Even martial grand masters could not break it. The sword chi and saber light did not leave a single mark on it. The battle was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 30 moves. Yao Tianyu, it seems that your profound grade saber art has only reached the 2nd level. If that's all you have, then you should die. Lu Ming roared. His true chi surged as he exerted his full strength. His true chi and physical strength were completely unleashed. Of course, Lu Ming did not use his bloodline and fire aura. Buzz! The battle sword slashed through the void, making a terrifying buzzing sound. This sword was much stronger than the previous one. Lu Ming did not use his full strength just now. Someone exclaimed. Yao Tianyu's eyes narrowed. Then, a bloody light flashed on his body. A giant praying mantis condensed. Its 5 bloody chakras were extremely dazzling. Then, the praying mantis drilled into Yao Tianyu's body. Yao Tianyu's aura surged. Bloodline eruption. Yao Tianyu's bloodline was the double saber praying mantis, which greatly enhanced his saber art. Once his bloodline eruption was activated, Yao Tianyu's saber art became sharper and more powerful. Clang! Another explosion and the two of them retreated at the same time. After Lu Ming retreated, he stomped his foot heavily and charged forward again. Yao Qianyu did the same. The two of them were like two cannonballs, heavily bombarding each other. Clang! Clang! In just a few breaths, the two of them had bombarded more than 10 moves. Everyone at the scene held their breath and stared at them without blinking. It was too intense and exciting. Boom! Another move. The two of them trembled and slid back more than 10 meters before they could stand firm. Yao Qianyu, is this all you have? It's really disappointing. After 2 minutes, your bloodline force will disappear. How are you going to fight with me then? Lu Ming's indifferent voice sounded. As soon as Lu Ming's voice fell, the whole place was filled with whispers. Lu Ming was right. Once Yao Qianyu's bloodline eruption was over, how could he fight with Lu Ming? How could this be? How could this Lu Ming be so strong? The young men following Yao Qianyu exclaimed in disbelief. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I admit that you're very strong. It's not bad that you can force me to this point. Now, I'll show you my real strength. I originally wanted to show it in the competition of the 4 academies 2 months later. It's your honor to use it on you. At this time, Yao Qianyu was not afraid. Instead, he laughed loudly. Chapter 106. Lu Ming, don't think that you're the only one who has practiced the way of body refining. Yao Qianyu roared. With a bang, Yao Qianyu's body was like a huge piece of iron, rushing toward Lu Ming. At the same time, he chopped down with his saber. The saber whistled, shaking the heaven and earth. Way of body refining. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed and he used all his strength to block with his giant sword. Boom! When the giant sword and Yao Qianyu's saber collided, Lu Ming felt an overwhelming force rushing toward him. He couldn't help but slide back more than 10 meters. He only felt a little numb. Way of body refining. Yao Qianyu has also practiced the way of body refining. It's the same kind of body refining skill as He Tai. Looking at the level of maturity, it's not weaker than He Tai's. With a strong body and a profound level saber technique, Lu Ming is doomed. He's no match for him. Yes, with a strong body and a profound level saber technique, Yao Qianyu's ranking on the bronze list is definitely not just 51st. In my opinion, he should be in the 40s. Lu Ming can't resist him at all. Lu Ming is really in danger. It's a pity that such a genius is going to die. I don't think so. Maybe Lu Ming has also practiced a profound level martial technique. Idiot, Lu Ming has also practiced a profound level martial technique. How is that possible? Do you think it's so easy to practice a profound level martial technique? How long has it been since Lu Ming entered the sect? Cultivation can be improved quickly with heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but martial techniques rely on comprehension and time. Although Lu Ming is very talented, he hasn't had enough time. I'm 100% sure that it's impossible for him to practice a profound level martial technique now. Yao Qianyu's sudden outburst shocked everyone. In the southern stands, Pang Shi was very anxious. What should we do? Yao Qianyu is so strong. What should we do? Will Senior Lu Ming be okay? This is a life and death battle. Pang Shi, calm down. Feng Wu called out, but her eyes were filled with worry as well. Hua Qi and Mulins didn't say anything, but at the same time, their eyes were filled with worry. Lu Ming, can you still create a miracle? Mulins whispered. On the east side, Yao Qianyu's lackeys were overjoyed. Ha, Senior Brother Yao is invincible. How can a mere Lu Ming fight against Senior Brother Yao? He is destined to die in the hands of Senior Brother Yao. A few lackeys shouted. On the other hand, Feng Xinglia, Yen Su, and the other geniuses on the bronze list stared at the battlefield with burning eyes. Lu Ming, this is my strongest combat power. Do you see it? This is the difference between us. I can kill you within a minute. Yao Qianyu's tone was very arrogant. At the same time, he was full of disdain and ridicule towards Lu Ming. But at this moment, to everyone's surprise, Lu Ming actually laughed. Lu Ming smiled confidently and calmly. His clear voice could be heard from afar. This huge sword is really not easy to use. I thought that I would be able to defeat you with this sword. Now, it seems that I have to change it. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant sword in Lu Ming's hand disappeared and an 8-foot-long red spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Long spear? Lu Ming uses a long spear? I heard that he has always used a sword. Could it be a bluff? No matter what, it depends on strength in the end. Yao Tianyu looked at the long spear in Lu Ming's hand and his eyes flashed. He sneered. What's the use of changing weapons? Die for me. Saber gleams flashed and Yao Tianyu continued to charge toward Lu Ming. Flaming Star Spear Art, Broken Armor. The long spear pierced out with a strong rotating force. This spear accurately pierced the blade of Yao Tianyu's battle saber. A strong force instantly erupted from the tip of the spear. The blade aura that Yao Tianyu condensed on the blade was instantly scattered. With a buzzing sound, the battle saber vibrated and Yao Tianyu's figure staggered back. Profound grade spear art, impossible. Yao Tianyu let out an incredulous roar. A spear strike repelled him. Lu Ming had definitely used a profound grade martial art. Moreover, it was definitely not weaker than his saber art. How was this possible? 3 months ago, Lu Ming definitely did not cultivate a profound grade spear art. Otherwise, in such a life and death situation, Lu Ming would definitely have used it. There was only one explanation. Lu Ming had not only improved his physical body and cultivation level within 3 months, but he had also mastered the black-level spear technique. Thinking of this, Yao Tianyu's heart was filled with a strong sense of fear. Lu Ming was too monstrous, too abnormal. This kind of talent was too terrifying. No, I must kill him today. Otherwise, the one who will die in the future will definitely be me. Yao Tianyu roared in his heart. At this moment, everyone present was stunned. When Lu Ming repelled Yao Tianyu with a single spear strike, they were already stunned. Astral Fire Spear Art, Landslide. Lu Ming took the initiative and did not give Yao Tianyu the slightest chance. His figure leaped high and the long spear fiercely smashed down. The long spear struck the air, creating a terrifying sonic boom. Yao Tianyu did not have time to counterattack and could only use his battle saber to block. Dang! The long spear smashed onto Yao Tianyu's battle saber. This spear contained the power of a landslide. Yao Tianyu's body trembled, his legs trembled and he almost knelt down. He only felt a sweet taste in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. When Lu Ming used a profound grade martial art, he had already completely suppressed him. Moon Seizing. Lu Ming did not show any mercy and launched a crazy attack. The long spear was like a dragon, constantly smashing towards Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu spat out large mouthfuls of blood and was completely at a disadvantage. The disciples of the 4 great courtyards stared with their eyes wide open. Profound grade martial art. Lu Ming has also cultivated a profound grade martial art. This is too unbelievable. Who is that? Weren't you 100% sure that Lu Ming could not cultivate a profound grade martial art? What do you say now? The person who was asked, his face flushed red and he was completely speechless. He was not the only one. Those disciples from the 4 courtyards who were certain that Lu Ming would not be able to master the black-level martial technique were also blushing. Lu Ming's words were like a slap to their faces. They did not dare to speak again. Lu Ming was simply beyond common sense. They were afraid that if they said too much, they would be ruthlessly slapped in the face again. Senior brother Lu Ming is really too powerful. Pang Shi was so excited that his whole body trembled. Mulans, Feng Wu, and Hua Qi were also ecstatic in their hearts, but the shock on their faces was difficult to suppress. Impossible? How is this possible? Yao Tianyu's several lackeys let out an incredulous roar. Bang! After more than 10 moves, Lu Ming's spear swept towards Yao Tianyu's chest. A burst of bone-breaking sound spread throughout the entire arena. Yao Tianyu's body was sent flying more than 20 meters and heavily fell on the fighting stage. His whole body was twitching non-stop and the saber in his hand was also sent flying far away. Yao Tianyu was defeated, completely defeated. He was defeated by this year's newcomer king, Lu Ming. Chapter 107. Step by step, Lu Ming walked towards Yao Tianyu. His clear and indifferent voice sounded. Yao Tianyu, a few months ago in the Dark Blood Mountain, your lackey wanted to snatch my Dark Blood Stone and was chased away by me. At that time, I was already merciful, but you thought you were so high and mighty that I had to obey you. When I returned to the sect, you ordered someone to summon me and told me to obediently hand over the Dark Blood Stone. I didn't agree, but you instigated the Star Moon Pavilion to deliberately find trouble with the new disciples of the Vermilion Bird Institute and deliberately injured my brother Pangshir. Your goal was to provoke me so that you could openly bring the people of the disciplinary hall to arrest me. At that time, I would be at your mercy. At that time, you were so arrogant, so insufferably arrogant that I didn't even have the qualifications to challenge you. But now, your prestige, your arrogance, where did it go? Lu Ming said as he walked. When he finished, he had already reached Yao Tianyu's side, looking down at him with indifferent eyes. The surrounding disciples of the 4 great courtyards were enlightened after hearing this. So this was how the enmity between Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu came about. Yao Tianyu is too arrogant, he actually used such a despicable method. It's not that Yao Tianyu is arrogant, the world of martial arts has always been like this. It's just that Yao Tianyu chose the wrong person. If it was someone else, they could only submit in front of him. But he just had to meet Lu Ming, such a peerless genius, so he could only be defeated. The disciples of the 4 great courtyards discussed with each other. The battle of life and death ends here. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. Wait, Lu Ming, wait, don't kill me. You're a peerless genius, but I'm not bad either. We can cooperate, no one in the Mystic Essence Sword sect will be our opponent in the future. Yao Tianyu's body frantically struggled as he shouted. He was still young, he still had a bright future ahead of him, he didn't want to die. Cooperate? Lu Ming smiled disdainfully and said, cooperate with me, you don't have the qualifications. Whoosh! Then, the long spear flashed and pierced through Yao Tianyu's chest. Yao Tianyu let out a blood-curdling screech as he gripped the spear shaft tightly with both hands. Blood continued to gush out from his mouth as his eyes were filled with unwillingness, resentment, and regret. At this moment, he finally regretted. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Whoosh! Lu Ming pulled out his long spear, and with a shake of the spear, the blood on the spear was shaken off, leaving not a single drop behind. Yao Tianyu's body slowly went limp. Finally, he stopped breathing. The genius on the bronze list, Yao Tianyu, was dead. At this moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Today, Lu Ming not only made it to the bronze list, he even killed Yao Tianyu. All of this was like a dream, so unreal. But that was the truth. Today, Lu Ming's name was destined to spread throughout the entire Mystic Essence Sword sect. On the southern stands, Pangshir laughed crazily. Mulans and the others also smiled. On the eastern stands, Yao Tianyu's henchmen were pale. Their bodies seemed to have lost all strength as they slumped in their seats. Yao Tianyu was dead. They knew that they would not have a good life in the future. Previously, they had relied on Yao Tianyu to act tyrannically and offended many people. Those people were afraid of Yao Tianyu and did not dare to do anything to them. But now that Yao Tianyu was dead, no one would care about them. Their future would be miserable. The geniuses on the bronze list were also shocked by the scene. Lu Ming's talent is better than mine. Feng Xinglie let out a long sigh, then turned around and left the stand. Lu Ming wins this battle. Lu Ming, do you want to continue? The middle-aged judge announced loudly and asked. Lu Ming shook his head and walked down the fighting stage. It was enough to kill Yao Tianyu. There was no need for another battle. It was better to leave some trump cards for himself. In this battle, he had already exposed his body-tempering Dao and his profound-level martial technique. Of course, he had only used the second level of the profound-level martial technique. In addition, he had not used his force. If he really used it, the disciples of the four courtyards would be shocked. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're amazing. Pang Shi, Hua Qi, Mulan, and the rest also came down from the spectator stand and walked toward Lu Ming. Before they arrived, Pang Shi shouted excitedly. Lu Ming, when did you learn the profound-level martial technique? You've been hiding it from us for a long time. Feng Wu walked over and said. Lu Ming smiled and said, it's too noisy here. Let's talk while walking. There were tens of thousands of people here and it was really noisy. It was indeed inconvenient. Everyone walked out of the bronze stand and walked towards the Vermilion Bird courtyard. Lu Ming briefly told them about his time in the Lingnan Fire territory to practice his spear technique. He did not mention that he had comprehended force. You're saying that you only cultivated in the Lingnan Fire territory for a few months and your profound-level martial technique has reached this level? Feng Wu and the others stared at him with wide eyes. That's right. The environment of that place is compatible with my spear technique, so it's much easier to cultivate. Lu Ming said. You're crazy. Everyone looked at Lu Ming with disdain. It was not easy to cultivate a profound-level martial technique. It was easy to find a suitable environment to cultivate, but how many people could really master it? Everyone could only describe Lu Ming as crazy. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Only he knew that he had relied on the chanting of the scriptures in the Temple of Paragon and his fearless cultivation to achieve this. They talked as they walked and soon, they arrived at the Vermilion Bird courtyard where Lu Ming and Pang Shi were staying. Senior Sister Mulans, I haven't paid you back the 3,000 contribution points I owed you last time. After entering the courtyard, Lu Ming took out his identity jade token. Mulan's beautiful eyes flickered continuously. Her pair of limpid eyes scanned Lu Ming from head to toe. After a while, she said, last time, not only did you defeat Ning Feng, but you also made it to the bronze list and killed Yao Tianyu. You have greatly boosted the prestige of the Vermilion Bird courtyard. I can't be stingy. Take those 3,000 contribution points as your reward. Thank you, Senior Sister Mulans. As soon as Mulans finished speaking, Lu Ming immediately thanked her. He was not embarrassed at all, as if he was afraid that Mulans would go back on her words. Mulans was speechless. Then, she looked around and said, now that you're on the bronze list, you'll be representing the Vermilion Bird courtyard in the 4-courtyard tournament in 2 months. For courtyard tournament? Lu Ming was confused. Beside him, Pang Shi was also confused. Hua Qi and Feng Wu's eyes flickered. They seemed to know about the 4-courtyard tournament. Mulans explained, the 4-courtyard tournament is a competition between the 4 courtyards. It's held once a year. For the bronze-level disciples, the geniuses on the bronze list directly participate. It's meaningless for other disciples to participate. Similarly, for the silver-level disciples, the geniuses on the silver list directly participate. In the end, the sect master will give out rewards according to the results of each disciple.